I didn't sleep very well last night, so honestly, I'm feeling a little grumpy, a little curmudgeonly, peevish. I'm feeling peevish. That perfectly encapsulates how I feel. I don't have the energy or the patience to pay attention to all of these little pieces. And as far as I can tell, color placement really doesn't matter that much for this pattern. So I'm going to rearrange a couple of the steps, and I'm going to sort of combine all of the similar sizes together, with the exception of the background and I think it is J piece, whichever the piece is that is the body of the butterfly. I'm going to leave those alone and group everything else together. So for instance, I'm going to have all of my 1.5 inch squares. I'm just going to go through the list, count how many I have, and then just cut randomly from my fabric. I'm not going to pay attention to the ABCDs of all of the butterfly wing pieces. I'm going to embrace the chaos and just cut whatever I feel like cutting. Like I said, I cut really chaotically. I cut 8 of these, 8 of these, 8 of these, 4 of these, and I just picked whatever color grabbed my attention. But I did go ahead and spend a little more time arranging the colors in a way that I liked. Now I'm going to sort of assemble these pieces like a log cabin. So I'll do this piece, then that piece, then that one, and so on, adding the next piece as I go. I'm going to go ahead and sew each of these 4 units together off camera, and then I'll move along to the next step. I'm done piecing these units, and I'm ready to move on to the next step. I'm going to start by laying them out as they will appear in the block, and then I'm going to take my O squares and add them to each outer corner. I'm going to leave these center corners alone. So basically what these little squares are doing are rounding off the sharp points so we get more of a rounded butterfly shape. And I have drawn a diagonal line on each of these, and I'm going to sew directly on that line. I'm also going to use my trusty glue stick and glue down each of these in the corner that's going to be cut away. And I'm not going to use much, it really doesn't take that much. And I'm going to do that for each square. I prefer to add the squares on like this because it's much easier to see that you're doing it right. It also seems to be a lot more sturdy, less flimsy when you add these small pieces to the larger block as opposed to the small pieces to a small strip. I pressed and trimmed off all the excess fabric from my little wing blocks, and I had to square them up because they were really messy. I used my handy dandy Creative Grid square up ruler, and it's the perfect size. Worked out perfectly. So now I'm ready to put those wings together. So I'm going to put my left side wings together, and I'm going to sew the right side together. And at the same time, I'm going to take my long J rectangle and my little bitty P rectangles and sew them to the top and bottom of J. Okay, at this point, everything is going to come together really quickly. I'm just going to sew my R's along the outer edge of each wing, and then I'm going to sew a Q to the top and bottom of the wing. And then finally, I'm going to sew the body to the right or to the left wing, and then the right wing to that. But let's skip all of that and go straight to the finished block. Block number 14 is done, and I really like how this one turned out. It was a lot of fun to make, and I think this is actually a pretty excellent scrap block, because you would just have to cut your scraps to 1.5 inches, and then you can subcut from there, and it just works up really well. This is probably one of my top 3 favorite blocks that we've made so far, and I can definitely see myself making it again. 10 out of 10, I'd make it again. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!